So let me start today with this. When you're on the job market, do you want the process to be fast developing or slow developing? Do you want an interview quick? Do you want employers to come seek you? Do you want little time between the time you were laid off and the time you get rehired by a new company? Or do you want the slow developing route? Sitting on your hands for a couple of months, waiting for an interview, waiting for companies to come to you after they've passed over their first or second candidate. Which person do you want to be in that scenario? Common sense, quick developing. You want to be wanted. You want companies to come after you. You don't want to sit behind, wait for a couple of months, and hope the phone rings. You want to be wanted. You want to be desired. You want to have a job, plain and simple. You want to be in the position where you have the leverage. Many companies are after you. You can negotiate with some of them, and in the end, you get a big salary, and you get to work at the company of your choice. That's a fast developing job market. In the slow scenario, you have no freedom, you have no choice. You'll be lucky if a company even calls you, let alone sets up an interview. See, Russell Westbrook right now, he's in that slow developing marketplace. And that's not just me, that's been quoted. Adrian Wojnarowski, quote, "Here's how sources describe the marketplace for a possible Russell Westbrook trade. Slow developing. Look at the suitors he's been tied to publicly. The Knicks, the Hornets, the Pistons. If you were an NBA player, would you want to play for any of those organizations? Probably not. None of those teams are contenders. None of them mean anything to the NBA, really. What have they done in the past 10 years? Nothing. They've been near the bottom of the league for the past decade, and ironically enough, those are the teams that are showing interest in Russell Westbrook. That's it. No one else. What does that tell you? What does that tell you about Russell Westbrook? What does that tell you about his decision to leave the Rockets? Westbrook came out and started this whole thing a couple of days ago. He said he's not interested in returning to Houston. He has a desire to return to a role similar to the floor general role he had in OKC. So what that means is individual superstar can't play with another player, won't win a championship, right? Look, I have a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for Russell Westbrook. I think he's a great basketball player, but he's not suited for this era of the NBA. Think about it. Great individual basketball player. He racks up the numbers. He's always in the playoffs, even though he never wins. And he does some good things on the court. He does help some teams, marginally. But he can't play with other superstars. We've seen that time and time again. Kevin Durant, Paul George, James Harden. And he can't win a championship. And he needs to have the ball at all times, and that could be to the detriment of the team. Westbrook to this day convinces himself that he's a great three-point shooter. The numbers tell a different story, but he always puts up a three. Not good. He is a ball hog. I guess the new term is floor general, but the truth is he's a ball hog. He needs to have the ball in his hands 24/7. It's only him who can make a good shot offensively. It's only him who can set up the offense each time his team has the ball. That's it. No one else. I admire that in the sense that back in the 90s, that's the way basketball was played. Every team had one superstar, maybe two if you're lucky. and every team was competitive. Even though the Bulls dominated the 90s, there were a lot of great teams in that era. It wasn't all about teaming up, finding another superstar. It wasn't a player-driven league. It was basketball, the way it was meant to be. Russell Westbrook would succeed in that environment. If we could go 20 years into the past and supplant Westbrook in that era, he'd be one of the greatest players in NBA history. No question. He would thrive in that era. He wouldn't need to worry about finding another player to play with. He wouldn't need to worry about other superstars. He could play his game on whatever team he wanted, and chances are that team would be a contender. Unfortunately for him, though, that's not the case anymore. One guy is not going to win a championship. That's the truth. We haven't seen it yet. Every team that's in the finals, every team that wins, has 2, 3, 4 superstars. But Westbrook wants to play by himself. He wants to be the floor general. He wants to be the guy. I commend him. I like the attitude, but it won't work. And see, here's the thing. It's fine if you want to be the guy. It's not fine if you can't produce and just say you want to be the guy. Look at his numbers over the past couple of years. We all know about the 2 years in OKC where he averaged the triple-double. But his past 2 seasons specifically, his last one in OKC and his first and possibly only one in Houston, his numbers took a dip. Field goal percentage down. 3-point percentage way down. And if you look at Westbrook actually from a career perspective, get this. He's 36th all time in field goals missed. He hasn't played that long. I know he's been around for a while, but not to the point where he should be placing in the top 50 all time in shots missed. That shouldn't be happening. Or what about turnovers? He's 11th all time in turnovers, ever, in the history of the NBA. He hasn't been playing that long. Those are 2 scary numbers. And to top that off, his 3-point percentage right at 30. Career. But he believes himself that he's a great 3-point shooter. Not the case. The numbers don't lie. So again, think about why Westbrook is available and think about the teams who really want him. Those are teams that I really wouldn't want to be on. Pistons, Hornets, Knicks. Some of the worst teams in the NBA want Russell Westbrook. What does that tell you? Why aren't the Lakers going after him? Or the Warriors? Why won't the Rockets fight to keep him? No one wants him. No one wants that headache. It's not that he's not a talented player. It's that he's too controlling and he can't play with anybody. And unfortunately, in today's NBA, that's going to get you nowhere. You will not be successful in the association today if you can't play and share the ball with another superstar. If you're selfish, it's not going to work today. It worked before. It worked 20 years ago. Not today. That's not the right philosophy. And it also doesn't help when you have so much confidence in yourself that you're willing to put up 3 after 3, even though you shoot 30%. Or that you're willing to shoot the ball all the time when you're top 50 all time and miss shots total. You see the point here? Russell Westbrook is a great player, no question. I respect him a lot, for those 2 triple-double seasons. But when you dig into what he really is as a player, and when you dig into his track record with other teams and other superstars, it makes sense as to why his market is slow developing. It makes sense as to why teams like the Hornets or the Pistons or the Knicks really, really want him. And teams like the Lakers or real contenders don't want anything to do with him. This isn't rocket science. This isn't complicated. If you watch the NBA, if you watch Russell Westbrook, you know, as great as his numbers are, they're shadowed by one big thing. He still doesn't have a ring. He's been in the NBA since 2008, still doesn't have a ring. He came close a couple of times, but he's never actually won. Now, is that a reflection on him only? No. He's been on some bad teams, but he's been on some pretty good ones too. He had Kevin Durant and James Harden as his teammates in OKC, couldn't win. He was with James Harden this past year, couldn't win. He was with Paul George in OKC, couldn't win either. He's been surrounded by the best players in the NBA, and yet he can't produce. He can't win games. What does that tell you? I found it so odd because I saw a lot of people on social media wondering, how can no one want him? Why is he leaving? Why isn't my team going after him? Here's why. He's not worth it. He's not worth the investment. Think about his track record. Think about who he is. Think about the accomplishments that he's put together. Besides the 2 triple-double seasons, which we all know him for, what has he really done in the NBA? He's been a good player. He was the sidekick to Kevin Durant, didn't work. He and Paul George shared time, didn't work. Went to Houston, played with James Harden, didn't work. Selfish player. Shoots threes even though he can't make them. And has never won a championship. When you put all of that together, does it make any sense? Now do you understand why no one wants him, or why your team doesn't want him? The only teams that have shown interest are teams near the bottom of the league. They want a spark. They want to sell seats. They want people to think that they're back in the game, and they're not. Any team that goes after Russell Westbrook is not back in the game. This doesn't make them a contender. He's not a contending piece. He's just a good basketball player who can't play with anybody else and has never won a championship. Let's talk about the facts here. We can talk about numbers. We can talk about triple-doubles. We can talk about the eye test. But let's talk about the track record. Let's talk about why it's a slow developing market for supposedly one of the best players in basketball. See, those two things don't add up. You can't be one of the best in the game and then have no one come after you. That makes no sense. It makes no sense. You can't be at the top of your craft in the NBA and have no suitors. That's a paradox. Doesn't work. Russell Westbrook, he's a good basketball player. If he retired today, guaranteed he'd be a Hall of Famer. No doubt. He has the career totals, 20,000 points, 7,300 assists, 6,000 rebounds. He's there. If he got injured today, couldn't play again, he'd be in like that. Easy, simple. But does that mean that he's a great player in this era? Does that mean that he's wanted by so many teams. No, it just means he's a great individual player and he has numbers. So next time you wonder, why is my team not in this? Why can I not get Russell Westbrook? Here's why. He's not worth it. Not worth the investment. You're going to give up prospects and players to get a guy who's uncoachable, needs the ball 24/7, can't play with another superstar, and has never won a championship. Oh yeah, that's right. He puts up threes all the time, can't make it. 30% lifetime shooting beyond the arc. That's not to mention the fact that he's top 20 all-time in turnovers. And he's top 50 all-time in total missed shots. Pretty shocking, right? So maybe that's why your team isn't all in on Russell Westbrook. Maybe they've seen these numbers, seen these stats, and they know not the best guy for our team. He is a great player. He will be a Hall of Famer. But that doesn't mean that he'll work for the best teams in the league. He's tried many times. It hasn't worked. He's played with the best players in the game. It hasn't worked. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Paul George. It hasn't worked. The guy's getting old year by year here. Going to be 32. It's not worth the investment. Why pay an aging superstar who can't play with others, doesn't recognize his own flaws, and can't win a championship? Why go out and pay him? Why trade valuable pieces or draft picks just to have him? That's why the NBA's bottom feeders are all over it. That's why the Hornets and the Knicks are all over him. That's why teams like that really want him, and real contenders don't. He's not a guy you can build a team around. He's just a good player. 20, 25 years ago, it would work. Today, it wouldn't. It doesn't. We've seen it. So instead of wondering, gee, I wonder why my team doesn't have him, you should probably be grateful. If you did have him, statistically speaking, you wouldn't win a championship. He's never won a championship yet. By taking him, you actually make sure that your team is further away from a championship. He can't play with others. And if you had him, he'd be the guy offensively, which, believe me, that's not a good thing. If you want irresponsible shots and turnovers, he's your guy. If you want sensible basketball, if you want contending basketball, then do whatever you can to stay away from Russell Westbrook. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with Derek Gould comes up next, so stay tuned. Hey, do you want to make some money this week? What if I told you that I could offer you $250 free to bet on any game you want, including Monday Night Football, tonight versus Minnesota? Here's what you have to do. Go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash, sportstalkchicago.com/cash. Illinois residents only. You must be 21 plus. You can get $250 free to bet on any game you want. Bears, Minnesota, Monday night, big game. College football next weekend. It's that simple. All you have to do is go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash, sportstalkchicago.com/cash. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.